you, Fresno! What I love about the nurses is not just that they work so hard to keep us healthy, but that they understand that for them to do their jobs well, everybody has got to have health care as a right. Now, we began our campaign over a year ago in Burlington, Vermont. And when we began our campaign, all of the experts and the media said, well, you know, this campaign is a fringe campaign, ain't gonna go nowhere. Well, a lot has happened in the last year. We started 60 points behind Secretary Clinton. Today, we're single digits. When we started, people said, oh, he's not going to win any states. Well, we've now won the primaries and caucuses in 20 states. And based on the turnouts that I have seen in the last week all over California, we're going to win this state and win it big. Did a great rally in Visalia, and earlier than that, we were up in Delano. And when I was in Delano, we had the honor, the real honor, of meeting with Federico Chavez, who is the nephew of Cesar Chavez. And I went into the room where way back in 1970, Cesar Chavez went on a hunger strike. He almost died, fighting for the dignity and the rights of farm workers. It was an honor to have been in that room. And clearly, while over the last 46 years we have made progress, it is also clear that in terms of farm workers, we still have a long way to go. Farm workers should not be exempt from United States labor law. Farm workers should not be working long hours for very low wages. Farm workers should not be exposed to pesticides which are impacting their health. Farm workers and everyone else in the community should not be in a position where they turn on their tap that the water that comes out is not drinkable. Corporations make billions by exploiting farm workers, and that is going to end. One of the great developments in this campaign that I'm very proud of is that in state after state, we are winning by large margins the youth vote. When I talk about youth, it is not just people 20 years of age, it is people 45 years of age and younger. Now, I know if you are 20, you kind of think that somebody who's 45 is pretty old. But your opinion will change when you become 45. But what is really great about that, in state after state, even in the states we lose, is that we win the youth vote by very large margins. And that tells me that our vision, the vision of our campaign, the vision that we share together, and that is an America based on social justice, an America based on economic justice, an America based on racial justice, an America based on environmental justice. When millions of young people are standing up and fighting for justice, you know, I know, and the establishment knows that is the future of our country. Let me give you some very good news. Donald Trump will not become president of the United States. He will not become president of the United States because in every national poll done in the last 2 months, and in virtually every state poll done in the last 2 months, we defeat Trump by large margins. Not only do we defeat Trump right here in California by 17 points in the last poll, but in almost every poll, we beat him or do better against him by large margins than does Secretary Clinton. So our message to the Democratic leadership is, if they want to defeat Trump, we are the campaign to do that. But it is not just polls. Polls go up and polls go down. What's more important is that our campaign, as anyone can see right here tonight in Fresno, our campaign has the energy and the grassroots activism. We have been running all over the state, and by the time we are ended here in California next week, we will have spoken to some 250,000 Californians.
You're the man.
And the reason that we will win is that Republicans win elections when people are demoralized, when they give up on the process, when they turn their backs on what goes on in Washington. We win elections when people are prepared to stand up and fight back for a country that we know we can become. So I say to the Democratic leadership, look around you in Fresno, California tonight. This is the energy that will retain the White House, regain the Senate, and win governor's races all across this country. Now, Trump will not become president because the American people will not vote for a candidate for president who insults Mexicans and Latinos?
He's a big brother chin tonight, you forgot that.
Who insults Muslims? Who insults women? Who insults African Americans? I hope that nobody here forgets that a few years ago, before Trump became a candidate, he was one of the leaders in the so-called birther movement. You remember that? And what that movement was about was a very ugly and vicious effort to delegitimize the first African American president in our history. Trump will not become president because the American people understand that our strength is in our diversity. That our strength is when blacks and whites and Latinos and Asian Americans and Native Americans stand together. We are a great country. My father came to this country, immigrated here at the age of 17. No money, couldn't speak English, never made a lot of money. But he loved this country for all that it did for him and his kids. And that is the story of millions of immigrant families.
Got that, the fact.
And we will never allow the Trumps of the world to divide us up. We will stand together. This campaign is going to win because we are doing something very unusual in American politics today. We are telling the truth. And the truth is that we have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires are buying elections. When billionaires buy elections, that's not called democracy, that is called oligarchy. We will not accept that. Our vision of democracy is one person, one vote. Not super PACs and their billionaire contributors electing candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. And I'll tell you something, I am extraordinarily proud, and I never thought that this would happen, to be honest with you. During this campaign, we have now received almost 8 million individual campaign contributions. That is more individual campaign contributions at this point in a campaign than any candidate in the history of the United States. Anybody here know what the average contribution is? You got it, $27. And I'm proud to tell you we are the only campaign that does not have and never will have a super PAC. We don't represent the billionaire class or Wall Street. We don't want their money. Secretary Clinton has raised her campaign funds in a very different way. He has not one super PAC, but a number of super PACs. And has raised many, many millions of dollars from Wall Street and other special interests. I find it hard to believe that you're going to take on Wall Street when you take their money. This campaign is not only going to overturn the Citizens United campaign finance decision. We're not only going to deal with a corrupt campaign finance system, we're going to deal with a rigged economy. A rigged economy is when the top 0.1% today owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. A rigged economy is when the 20 wealthiest people, 20 people, own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. A rigged economy is when one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owns more wealth than the bottom 42% of the American people. And a rigged political system is when one of the Walmart families contributes $300,000 to the Clinton campaign. And I say to the Walton family, instead of making a $300,000 contribution to the Clinton campaign, why don't you pay your workers a living wage? A rigged economy is when a single mother here in California or my state of Vermont goes to work, earns $10 an hour, and is unable to find decent child care to take care of her kids. A rigged economy is when veterans who have put their lives on the line to defend this country sleep out on the streets. A rigged economy is when the CEOs of large corporations make tens of millions of dollars a year in compensation, and then they cut the wages or health care benefits and pensions of their workers. A rigged economy is when we have a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. Their numbers are growing every day. But we have today the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. Brothers and sisters, we are going to create an economy that works for the children. An economy that works for our parents and grandparents. An economy that works for the poor and the sick. An economy that works for working families and not just the 1%. Our job is not only to end the corrupt campaign finance system and to end a rigged economy in which the rich get richer and almost everybody else gets poorer. Our job is also to end a broken criminal justice system. This is America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We should not be having more people in jail than any other country on earth. And the people in jail, as everybody knows, are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native Americans. One of the reasons that we have so many people in jail is that in communities all over this country, in rural areas and in inner cities, we have youth unemployment rates of 30, 40, 50%. We have kids graduating high school and they cannot find jobs. And when kids hang out on street corners, bad things happen. And that is why together we are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education. Not in jails and incarceration. And when we talk about a broken criminal justice system, it is imperative that we also look at local police departments all across this country. Now, I am the former mayor of Burlington, Vermont, and I work closely with the police department in my city, and I've worked since with police officers and organizations all over this country. The average police officer is honest, hardworking, and has a very difficult job. It is not easy being a cop today, but like any other public official, if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We must demilitarize local police departments. Police departments should not look like occupying armies. They should not be seen by the community as an oppressive force. We must make local police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We must end corporate ownership of prisons and detention centers. We must create a culture among law enforcement agencies all across this country which says that the use of lethal force, shooting someone, is the last response, not the first response. We must rethink the so-called war on drugs. Over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have received police records for possession of marijuana. And that is a serious business, because if you are 19 years of age and you go in and you apply for a job, and your prospective employer says, well, have you ever been arrested? And the kid says, yeah, I have been arrested. It is likely that you may not get that job. And right now, under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug right alongside heroin. That's true. Now, I know that people argue the pluses and minuses of marijuana, but nobody thinks that marijuana is equivalent to a killer drug like heroin. That is why I've introduced legislation to take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. As you all know, as everybody knows, the decision to legalize marijuana is a state issue, not a federal issue. 4 states plus the District of Columbia have voted to legalize marijuana. But possession of marijuana should not be a federal crime. In November, there will be a proposition on your ballot here as to whether or not to legalize marijuana from a criminal justice perspective. If I were a citizen, I would vote for the legalization of marijuana. I do not want more and more people to have criminal records just for possessing marijuana. We can do better than that. But while we're on the subject of drugs, I hope everybody here understands that the United States today is facing a major crisis in terms of opiate and heroin addiction. People are dying every single day from heroin or opiate overdoses. In my view, we have got to address this crisis, but we have to be smart about how we address it. And to me, that means we have got to understand that substance abuse and addiction should not be treated as a criminal issue, but as a health issue. That means that we need a revolution in this country in mental health treatment. People should be able to get the mental health treatment when they need it, not 6 months from when they need it. That applies not just to people who have addiction problems. It also applies to the fact that we got thousands of people walking the streets of the United States today, sad to say, who are suicidal, very serious problem in this country, or who may even be homicidal. If somebody has a mental health crisis, it must be treated in the same way as we treat other health crises. Yeah! Now this campaign is going to win because we are talking to ordinary Americans, not billionaire campaign contributors. We are talking to workers who tell me they cannot make it on $9 or $10 an hour, that they need to have a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour. In America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. $15 an hour and the ability to form a union. And when we talk about equitable wages, it is not acceptable to me, or I know you, that women in America today are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Women want the whole damn dollar and they're right. And let's not kid ourselves. The fact that women are making 79 cents has nothing to do with economics. It is just old-fashioned sexism, and we're going to end it.
Don't forget the rich
and I know that every man here will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity. Once a month, you see on the front pages of your papers a report from the federal government on the rate of unemployment in America. We should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. When in California and all over this country, we have water systems that are failing, wastewater plants that are obsolete, roads that have huge potholes, bridges which are collapsing. We need a massive program to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. We used to have the best rail system in the world. That's no longer the case. If we rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, we can create 13 million good-paying jobs. That's what we should be doing. And when we talk about creating an economy that works for all of us and not the 1%, I've got news for the billionaire class and corporate America. You are going to start paying your fair share of taxes. It is not acceptable to me or the American people that we have corporations that make billions of dollars a year in profits, stash their money in the Cayman Islands and other tax havens, and do not pay a nickel in federal taxes. So I tell the billionaire class that the days in which you get it all are over. This campaign is listening to women. And women and all of us are tired of hearing Republicans talk about their family values. Because we all know what those so-called family values are. What those family values are telling every woman in America that she does not have the right to control her own body. We disagree. And what their family values are telling our gay brothers and sisters they do not have the right to get married. We disagree. My wife and I have been married, as of yesterday, 28 years. And my wife, more than anybody I know, believes in family and family values. But our family values are not the hateful Republican family values. Our family values are going to end the international embarrassment of the United States being the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave. This is what goes on in America today. Today in California, today in Vermont, women are having beautiful babies. But if those women are working class or low income women, the likelihood is that in a week, 2 weeks, they are going to have to separate themselves from their beautiful new babies and go back to work, education that they can. Why is it that they end up $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 in debt? This campaign is about thinking outside of the box, outside of the options that the corporate media gives us. Think about it for a second, just for a second. We live in a highly competitive global economy. We need the best educated workforce in the world if we're going to secure a good future for our kids. We should be encouraging people to get a good education, not punishing them. Now, 40 or 50 years ago, you had a high school degree in California or Vermont, you were doing okay. You could go out, get a decent job, make it into the middle class. But the world has changed. Technology has changed. The economy has changed. People today need more education. That's just a fact. And that is why today, when we talk about public education, it cannot just be first grade to 12th grade. It must include free tuition in public colleges and universities. never had much money, and neither one of them ever went to college. And in California and all over this country, you got millions and millions of kids, parents that went to college. And for some of them, if they are low income or working class, the idea of going to college is as likely as going to the moon. Yeah. What I want to see happen in this country, which is what America is supposed to be about, is that any kid in this country who studies hard, who does well in school, I want that child to know that they will be able to get a college education regardless of their income. That is what America is supposed to be about. How many people here tonight have student debt?
You student debt?
No, heck no, I don't.
Well, between you and me, it strikes me as being crazy that we punish people with debt that they're going to be paying off year after year, in some cases, decade after decade. I believe that anybody who has student debt today should be able to refinance that debt at the lowest interest rates they can find. Now, people say, my opponents say, the establishment media says, well, Bernie, you know, you're like Santa Claus. You have white hair. Don't have a beard yet, but you got white hair. You're giving out free tuition at public colleges. You want to lower student debt. How are you going to pay for it? I will tell you exactly how we're going to pay for it. Over the last 25 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class and working families to the top 1/10 of 1%. I'm talking about trillions of dollars. The middle class is shrinking. The percentage of wealth owned by the top 1/10 of 1% has doubled in the last 20 years. Well, together we're going to redistribute that wealth back to the middle class. Years ago, after the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior on Wall Street caused the worst recession since the Great Depression, the CEOs on Wall Street in their $5,000 suits or whatever they wear went crawling to the United States Congress. And they said, oh yes, our greed destroyed the economy, our illegal behavior destroyed the economy, but nonetheless, we would like you to bail us out. And against my vote, Congress did bail them out. I believe that now is the time, when Wall Street is doing just fine, that we should impose a tax on Wall Street speculation, which would bring in more than enough money to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and substantially lower student debt. The American people bailed out Wall Street. It is Wall Street's time to help the middle class of this country. This campaign is listening to the Latino community. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country, and every day undocumented workers are being exploited and are being cheated. Because the fact is, when you have no legal rights, you cannot stand up for yourself on the job. So you're being underpaid, overworked, and you have nowhere to go. And that is why I believe the time is long overdue for Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. and we must end the current deportation policy. The immigration policy of the United States should be to unite families, bring them together, not divide families. And if Congress does not do its job and repair a broken immigration system, I will use the executive powers of the President to do all that I can. Yes, we can. But we can only do it when we stand together and not allow anybody to divide us up. This campaign is listening to the African American community. They are asking me, how does it happen that we can spend trillions of dollars on a war in Iraq we never should have gotten into? But we supposedly don't have the funds to rebuild inner cities in America. We are going to change our national priorities. We're not going to rebuild communities in Afghanistan and Iraq. We're going to rebuild them here in America. This campaign is listening to a people whose pain is almost never heard, and that is the Native American community. Everybody knows that from before the time when this country became a country, when the first settlers came here, the Native American people were lied to, they were cheated, and treaties they negotiated were broken. And yet the Native American people have given our culture so much that it is a debt that we can never fully repay. And probably the most important thing that they have taught us, and what a profound lesson it is, and one that we cannot fail to learn, is that as human beings, we are part of nature. We must live with nature. We continue to destroy nature, we are destroying ourselves. And yet, despite all that the Native American people have given us, if you go to Native American reservations, if you go to their communities, what you see, in many cases, very high rates of poverty and unemployment, inadequate health care, inadequate education. If elected president, we are going to fundamentally change our relationship to the Native American people. I am a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Environment. I have talked to scientists all over our country and all over the world. The debate is over, despite Donald Trump's belief. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity. And as you well know right here, in your part of California, climate change is already doing devastating harm.
Tell us about it. Tell us
And what
about
the
it.
scientists tell us, and we had better listen to them, if we do not get our act together and break our dependence on fossil fuel, there will be more droughts, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels in the years to come.
Not to mention
As human beings, we are custodians and guardians of this planet. We have a moral responsibility to leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable for our kids and future generations. And together, we are going to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. I believe that we need bold action now, which is why I have introduced the most comprehensive climate change legislation ever introduced in the Senate. It calls for, among many other things, a tax on carbon. I would hope Secretary Clinton will change her view and support my effort to put a tax on carbon. And the other issue that is of growing significance, and you know it as well as anybody in America, and that is the need to make sure that our people have clean drinking water. I do not believe that most people in this country know that there are thousands of homes right around here where when people turn on the faucet, they cannot drink that water. In America, people should be able to drink the damn water that comes out of their tap. So we say to agribusiness and all of their pesticides, stop poisoning the water in this country. And that is why it is my view, in addition to that, that we have got to ban fracking in this country. And I would hope that Secretary Clinton changes her view and comes on board that position. What this campaign is about is taking a hard look at what's going on in our country and creating a vision of where we should be going. It is a campaign which asks the American people to think big, not small. It is a campaign which asks a very simple question, and that is, how does it happen that every other major country on earth, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Holland, Scandinavia, Canada, I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border, how come every major country on earth, except the United States, guarantees health care to all people as a right? Now, I have been criticized for saying this, so I will say it again. In my view, and I think in the views of most Americans, health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. Now, the Affordable Care Act, which I supported, has done some very good things, but not enough. How many people here tonight do not have any health insurance? Raise your hands. Wow. How many people here are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments? Well, there you go. Those hands are an indication of a failed healthcare system. It is not too much to ask that every person in this country have the right to go to the doctor and get the health care they need when they need it. We have also got to end the absurdity of the pharmaceutical industry ripping us off every single day. What crazy is about is when 1 out of 5 Americans who go to the doctor are unable to afford the prescriptions that their doctors write. Can you imagine that? You go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, he or she gives you a prescription, you can't afford to fill it. What happens? Well, you get sicker. That's pretty crazy.
I'll tell you.
In California and in Vermont and all over this country, you got elderly people, disabled veterans. They are cutting their medicine, their pills in half because they do not have the money to afford the medicine they need.
Look.
Meanwhile, last year, the 5 major drug companies made $50 billion in profit.
There's a guy here Mark works with.
That is why, together, we are going to pass a Medicare for all healthcare system. Healthcare is a right whether you're rich or you're poor, you're young or you're old. The function of healthcare is to preserve our health, not to make billions in profits for the drug companies or the insurance companies. Brothers and sisters, everybody here knows a very profound lesson of American history. And that lesson is that real change never takes place from the top on down. It is always from the bottom on up. Think about American history. 100+ years ago, workers in America were forced to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Children were working in factories, losing their fingers in machinery they should not have been near. But working people all across this country made it very clear to their employers, we're not animals, we're not beasts of burdens. You will treat us with dignity and respect. We're going to form trade unions. We are going to have a say on the job. We are going to negotiate contracts. Think about, go back 150 years ago, amidst the abomination of slavery in this country, there were African Americans and their allies who, in the midst of all of that horror, they looked to the future. And they said, and they fought for, a day when this country would rid itself of racism and bigotry and segregation. And over the years, millions of people participated in the civil rights movement. I want you to think about where we were 100 years ago, not a long time from an historical perspective, in terms of women's rights. 100 years ago, the children don't know this. 100 years ago, women in this country did not have the right to vote, to get the education they wanted, or the jobs they wanted. 100 years ago, the establishment, the ruling class, said to women, your function in life is to stay home, clean the house, and have babies. And think about the courage of the women who stood up, who fought back and who said to the establishment, sorry, you will not define my life for me. We will define our own lives. And women and their male allies fought back. Some went to jail, some went on hunger strikes, some died. But they stood together to make it very clear that women in America would not be treated as second-class citizens. If we were here just 10 years ago, no time at all, somebody jumps up and says, you know, Bernie, I think that gay marriage will be legal in every state in this country by the year 2015. If somebody said that, person next to her would have said, you're crazy, that can't happen. Too much homophobia, too much hatred, it won't happen. But what did happen is the gay community and their straight allies stood up, fought back. They said that in America, people should have the right to love each other regardless of their gender. If we were here 5 years ago, no time at all, somebody jumps up and says, you know, Bernie, there's $7.25 an hour federal minimum wage is a starvation wage. We have got to raise it to $15 an hour. Somebody said that, other people would have said, what are you talking about? You want to more than double the federal minimum wage? That's just absurd. You're an extremist. You're a radical. Maybe we can get it up to $9, $10 an hour. $15 an hour, out of the question. Can't be done. Establishment won't allow it. But, here is what happened. Very brave workers in McDonald's and in Burger King and in Wendy's and the fast food establishment, these workers went out on strike. And they told America that they cannot live on $7.25 an hour. And what happened then is that in Seattle, Washington, a few years ago, City Council passed $15 an hour. San Francisco, Los Angeles, $15 an hour. California, New York State, $15 an hour. Here is my point. My point is that what the establishment always does, they do it today and they did it 100 years ago, is to tell people that real fundamental change is impossible. What they tell you to do is to think small, not big. Well, like one of my opponents, yes, that's true. Now, I don't want to mention her name, but that's true. But here is the point. The point is that all over this country today, from coast to coast, and I've been from Maine to here in California, people are looking at the status quo in America. What are they seeing? They're seeing the continued shrinking and shrinking and shrinking of the middle class. They're seeing people working 2 or 3 jobs. They're seeing with deep concern a bad future for their kids who may not be able to afford to go to college. They are seeing America is the only major country that doesn't guarantee paid family medical leave or health care to all. They're seeing women making 79 cents on the dollar. They're seeing a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires are buying elections. They are seeing an infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, which continue to get worse. And in the midst of all of that, children going hungry, what they're seeing is almost all the new wealth and income going to the people on top. And what the American people are catching on to, despite what the media tells them, despite what the establishment tells them, they are catching on to the fact that that is not what America should be. We can be much more. And what the American people are understanding is the only way that real change takes place is when millions of people from coast to coast stand up, fight back, and demand a government which represents all of us, not just the 1%. And that is what this campaign is all about. Now, on June 7th, a week from Tuesday, there is going to be a very, very important Democratic primary here in California. There are 475 delegates at stake. If there is a large voter turnout, we will win and win big. And if we win big in California and win in the other states that are up on June 7th, we will go into the Democratic Convention with a heck of a lot of momentum. And I believe we will come out of the Democratic Convention with the nomination. Mark my words, if we come out of the Democratic Convention with the nomination, Donald Trump is toast. So on June 7th, this great state of California, one of the most progressive states in the country, and go on record and tell the world California is ready for the political revolution. Thank you all.